The Prophet had already made this continuity unmistakably clear when he said, "Indeed, among you is the one who will fight for the Tawil after me, as I fought for the Tanzil." When asked who this person was, he replied, "He is the mender of shoes," identifying Ali, who at that moment was repairing the Prophet's sandals. This private indication was later affirmed publicly at Ghadīr Khumm, where the Prophet, under God's command, declared, "For whomever I am his master, Ali is his master." Narrated in Ahmad, Tirmidhi, Nasa'i, and Ibn Majah, this was the formal designation of the Imam as the bearer of divine light after the Prophet, the one who would carry the Tawil of the Qur'an just as the Prophet carried its Tanzil. Through him, the spiritual inheritance of the Qur'an continues, ensuring that the Ummah is never left without the living light appointed by God. Surah Ali Imran teaches that God himself chose Adam, Noah, Abraham, and the family of Imran above all creation, Quran 3:33, and then declares that they are offspring one of the other, Quran 3:34. This does not refer to ordinary biological descent. It refers to a single luminous chain, a spiritual progeny, in which the same divine light passes from one chosen guide to the next. This pure chain is God's rope and the true Siratith Mustaqim, the living line of guidance that connects heaven to earth. Yet the Ummah, driven by worldly gain, power, and stature, chose to replace this light with their own intellect. They fashioned their own rope of deviation and abandoned the rope of light that God had established through his chosen progeny. This was not merely a political disagreement, it was a spiritual turning. The Ummah replaced divine succession with human appointment, heavenly guidance with earthly governance, and the living light with the silent letter. This choice changed the course of Islamic history, but Imam continued for the righteous. Quran 2:2. According to Qur'anic wisdom, knowledge is embedded in every divine act. Quran 6:80-47. Thus, the Salat prayer that Allah and his angels send upon the believers is not merely a blessing, it is a transmission of knowledge and wisdom that brings them out of the darkness of ignorance into the light of understanding. Quran 33:43. The salat that the believers receive from the Prophet is likewise a form of purification and inner elevation, for God commands him to cleanse them and pray for them. Your prayer is a comfort for them. Quran 9:103. This knowledge-laden blessing cannot descend directly. It must pass through the one appointed as the living mazhar of guidance. Today, that same light of knowledge is obtained from the Imam of the time, whose light is the same as the Prophet's, as affirmed in the verse, "He will appoint for you a light by which you shall walk." Quran 57:28. Therefore, when the Quran states that God brings the believers from darkness into light, Quran 33:43, it means through the channel he himself established. If the believers reject that living light, they do not merely fall into darkness, they fall into deeper darkness. The descent of Salawat contains the blessings of knowledge and mercy, and these blessings must pass through the living bearer of divine light. To imagine that they descend directly is to misunderstand the divine order and to undermine the very salawat that God sends upon the Prophet
sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam
and the Imams.
Alayhi salam.
The light of God first appeared in the world of creation through Adam, and Iblis was the first to show enmity toward that light, with Qabil following him. Their arrogance and rejection became the root of all hostility toward divine guidance. The Quran describes their efforts as blows of their mouths, false arguments, and futile attempts to extinguish the light against luminous knowledge of God. Yet God continues to perfect His light in every age through the chain of prophets and Imāms, the very reality of light upon light. Quran 24:35. This is why the Quran affirms that divine light cannot be extinguished no matter how people strive against it. Quran 9:32, 61:8. God declares that every community has a warner and a guide. Quran 13:7. And that every people will be raised with their Imam, Quran 17:71. From Adam to the present Imam, the divine plan has always been continuous, unbroken, and eternal, the same light appearing in every age, despite the opposition of those who reject it. The Quran commands the believers to follow the light that was sent down with him, Quran 7:157, and Imam Jafar as-Sadiq explains that this light is Maulana Ali and the true Imams. This perfectly aligns with God's declaration that He selected the family of guidance from the descendants of Adam, Noah, Abraham, and Imran, Quran 3:33-34, forming a single divinely chosen lineage. Their light is the continuation of the same radiance that has guided humanity from the beginning. This is why the Quran instructs believers to come to the Prophet when they wrong themselves, so that he may seek forgiveness for them. Quran 4:64, a command that applies in every age because the light of guidance is always living and present. God affirms this continuity when He promises to appoint for the believers a light by which you shall walk. Quran 57:28. Thus, following the Prophet means following the light that came with him, the Imam, the living bearer of divine guidance in every generation. The Quran teaches that God appoints the Prophet and after him the Imam to take the sadaqah, zakat, of the believers and purify them. Quran 9:103-104. This purification is not symbolic, it is spiritual and intellectual in the form of ibadat and knowledge. Their prayer brings a comfort and acceptance that no one else can offer because the divine pleasure placed in God's living, speaking name, the Prophet and the Imam, is not found in any other. Through them, the hearts of the believers are cleansed, elevated, and illuminated with true knowledge. The Quran is not a book that can be exhausted by recitation or confined to the surface of its words. It can be recited in the most beautiful, melodious voice, but the real beauty remains hidden. It is a living architecture of meanings, layered like the heavens themselves. Every verse contains a door, every door opens to a world, and every world is connected to the next through the chain of God's chosen guides. What the Ummah lost was not information, it was the key. Without the key, even the most luminous verses remain sealed, and the gates of paradise remain closed to the inner eye. Every verse is a sign, an indication, a miracle, and the key to the treasures of every verse is with the living Lord of the time. The wisdom of the Quran teaches that divine guidance is never random, never fragmented, and never left to human improvisation. Just as creation unfolds through precise laws, spiritual ascent unfolds through a precise order. Tanzil through the Prophet, Tawil through the Imam, and understanding through the believer who approaches with humility. When this order is broken, the meanings collapse into literalism, and the soul wanders in a maze of its own making. The greatest tragedy is not that people disagreed, it is that they underestimated the Quran. They imagined that its oceans could be crossed without a captain, that its mountains could be climbed without a guide, that its secrets could be unlocked without the one appointed to hold the key. But the Qur'an itself testifies that divine knowledge descends through a living heart, not through the dead letter, through a bearer of light, not through the shadows of conjecture. Those who recognize this order discover that the Qur'an is not merely a scripture, it is a universe of light, and the Imam is its horizon. Through him, the scattered meanings gather, the hidden becomes visible, and the believer walks a path illuminated from within. This is the wisdom that transforms reading into recognition, obedience into intimacy, and faith into vision. And it is here that the prayer of utmost humility, "Guide us on the straight path," Quran 1:6, finds its fulfillment. For the straight path is not a road drawn on earth, nor a doctrine preserved in books. It is the living light through whom God guides, clarifies, unveils, and leads the soul from confusion to certainty. When the believer recognizes the Imam as the horizon of the Quran's meanings, the supplication of Surat al-Fatiha is no longer a request. It becomes a reality lived from within.